Hi, everyone, and thanks so much for joining another Monday Mindset. So, today we're talking about a topic that is really easy to give sometimes, but really hard to receive or give ourselves. And that topic is compassion. And being that it's Mental Health Awareness Month, really focusing on mental health, I thought what better way than talking about compassion, which is such a key element of overall well being and being kinder to ourselves. But before we do, let's get into this week's quote. Courage, kindness, friendship, character, these are the qualities that define us as human beings and propel us, on occasion, to greatness. And that's by RJ Palacio. And I really like this quote because it just goes back to being human. And that's what compassion is really about as well. And when we are able to foster those aspects and those qualities of just being human, we can foster such deep, meaningful connections and relationships as well. That's why this quote just stood out to me. And why not for compassion? So, what is compassion? Compassion is helping to relieve another person's suffering through act of kindness, caring, and support. So empathy is included in that, but it's more than just empathy, and we'll talk about the differences. But you're more concerned with the well-being of others rather than yourself when it's just compassion, and going beyond an emotion or rationalization and still being kind. So even if you're not agreeing with what's going on or you're frustrated, you're allowed to remove that emotion and just be able to use that logical side of you to deal with something that's going on, especially when it comes to being an entrepreneur, running a business. You're working with lots of different personalities, but still being able to be kind. So, what's the difference between compassion and empathy? Well, compassion is a way of life, it's an attitude. It's those minor acts in everyday life that can balance out our emotions. And it's kind for just practical reasons because you want to. And then with empathy, it's being present to another person's suffering. So, feeling, sensing someone else's emotional experience, very non judgmental, and it makes us unconsciously more sympathetic towards individuals we relate more to. And there's so much more research now on empathy, just a lot of great authors and researchers as well that have tackled this, but especially in the workplace and with leadership. But with compassion, it's really just how we go about our days. And how can we be more compassionate? Well, the first thing is letting go of judgment. So when we're letting go of just the fact that we know everything or anything along those lines, we're able to let go of that. And that can allow us to be more compassionate because we're not having assumptions or preconceived notions about something. We're able to just really let that go. And part of doing that is be in the moment. When we're in the moment of hearing somebody, what they're going through, or anything that's happening in the workplace, especially, but we're able to be present. We're able to have our heart be listening versus maybe our mind as well. Being able to practice gratitude. So, what are you grateful for? That's one thing I don't do it every single day, but I do try to do it almost every day in the mornings. Just what am I grateful for? Three things. And I try to do different things each day. So it just really broadened my horizons of all the things I am so grateful for. And then it's being kinder to ourselves. So when we have that act of self-love, I talk a lot about self-love, so there's so many other videos about it, but being able to really be kinder to ourselves in just how we reward ourselves and forgive ourselves if we make mistakes. Again, nobody is perfect. You are, let me know. Because I know I'm not. And this is something I'm constantly working on, being kinder to myself and not being so hard on myself, but also for you guys to look at how are you approaching yourself? How are you forgiving yourself if you do come across something where you make a mistake and you're really hard on yourself? How do you remove that? And it's just starting to practice that, being nicer and being authentic. So think, act, and say what is natural to you. That's part of being authentic, just understanding too how we approach things because when we're speaking from the heart, it's so different than if you're calculating. So it's just something to be mindful of. And then think and act from the heart rather than the head, like we were talking about. It's your emotional center. And what I mean by that is really coming from that place of the heart centered, of understanding what's going on, the emotion. You're not negating everything else, but you're just being more present to the that are happening. And volunteering is another great way to be more compassionate. You're volunteering or mentoring as well. I love being able to mentor, being able to help people in other capacities. I think it just brings out so much passion of who we are as individuals, but we always feel better when we're helping someone else. Well, at least I do. And then being aware of compassion fatigue. So this is something I just wanted to put in there because it's something that's very true, especially if you are in certain I guess professions that really ask a lot of you, whether it's social work or psychology, being a life coach where you're dealing with emotions, a lot of emotions. And how can you be really mindful of compassion fatigue? Well, it's an emotional and physical burden created by the trauma of helping others in distress. So it can lead to a reduced capacity for empathy towards suffering in the future. So you might feel a little bit more jaded or anything like that if you're constantly dealing with lots of crisis. I know when I was working in the therapy field, I really felt a lot of this at some point. Thank God I had my own therapist and was going to make sure I was in check. So it was great for my clients, but it's something to be very conscious. And some of the signs that you might experience, it's a little bit different than burnout, but it's exhaustion, loss of purpose, withdrawal, difficulty with separating work and life, um, apathy towards work and clients, anger, detachment. In addition to that, it can be perfectionism, minimizing things or things that are happening, and self doubt. So, those are just some of the signs, but really check yourself too when you're dealing with maybe clients that are a little bit need a little bit more from you. How is that impacting your overall well being as well? So, the good stuff, self compassion. How do we do it? Well, it's being understanding and warm towards ourselves when we feel inadequate, fail, suffer, rather than being rather than like self-critical. So when we are dealing with just our emotions, when we're feeling so hard, we're being so hard on ourselves, it can be really tough to be so nice to ourselves too. If you are just focusing on all the flaws, all the failures, everything that could go wrong, you're focusing on that versus being more gentle towards yourself. So something I always ask people that like bring this up is, how would you treat your best friend? Would you talk to your best friend the way you're talking to yourself? Most likely not. And this is a great reminder because even if you're aware of this, you may have heard this before, but really drilling it in because it happens a lot, especially if you've been very mean to yourself and there's not a lot of kindness and love there. When we're able to take that compassion, what we would give to somebody else, how are we doing that to ourselves? What are we doing? If half the things I had previously said to myself over the years, I would never say that to a best friend ever. But I'm working on it. I'm constantly working on it. It's something just to be mindful of yourself too, because you wouldn't treat your best friend of saying, I can't believe you did this, or not being perfect, or all these like things that play in our heads that don't allow us to move forward, instead keep us stuck or not allow us to shine. And tolerate of shortcomings. So let yourself make mistakes. All about self acceptance. If you keep focusing on all the mistakes you've made, how is that going to allow you to move forward? But it's really being able to understand you are going to have shortcomings. You're not going to be perfect all the time. You're going to make mistakes. And the reason of those mistakes, it's a great opportunity to learn, grow from it, especially if you're into personal development and self growth. Those are key factors of just understanding, okay, I'm learning this. Instead of focusing on the failure, focus on learning. Okay, I learned it. Now, next time, I'm going to do it differently. And then mindfulness practices. So, really just being mindful what you're saying to yourself, how you're acting towards yourself, just really being mindful. Meditation, able to journal, paint, draw, things that are allowing yourself and your mind to relax too. And just the biggest thing is being more compassionate to yourself. But overall, the importance of compassion, why is it so important? Well, it reduces the fear, anxiety, and stress that you might be having towards yourself or others as well. Because if you're giving yourself that love and really understanding and warm and gentleness towards you, you're going to reduce all of those other factors of the fear of not maybe succeeding all the time, having those failures. There's going to be that reduction of it too, of removing that. And then having meaningful and healthy relationships. So, like I was talking about earlier, you're allowed to have those better or deeper connections as you have more compassion. You are opening your heart as well. And happiness. You have a greater sense of happiness when you're passionate, not only towards your others, but towards yourself too, because happiness comes from within. And understanding yourself and others more, it allows you to have that awareness, the awareness of who you are and who other people are and how why they're responding a certain way. You're not going to take it as personal. You're going to be able to be more compassionate if you're understanding what's really going on. And better overall health and wellness, feel better because that energy. I was just talking to somebody today about how like the stress that they carry within of the how much energy it takes to carry that stress day in day out. But when we feel better, other things start to reduce as well that are negative or impacting us negatively. We become more resilient because we're allowing things to happen that are letting us feel better, look better. And what I mean by look better, because we're taking care of our health, we might not look like we're exhausted from all the stress. We're reducing that. So it really has an impact on our overall well being too. And creating an environment of growth, especially as a business owner, CEO, being able to create that environment of compassion and understanding and warmth where people can still grow. They're going to have shortcomings, they're going to have failures and make mistakes. But if you're creating an environment that is so healthy and it will allow it to thrive and grow, and that's what environments need. That's what we need internally as well. So I hope that was helpful. Thank you so much for joining today, all about compassion. Let me know, how do you show yourself self-compassion in the comments below. I'll see you on the next video.